Hello everybody and welcome to Truly Heal. And today we have a very, very special guest with us, which I'm excited about because we know each other since a very long time, Dr. Pavlak, and he is well known as one of the leading experts in PMF. And most people know that I'm very excited about PMF in regards to cancer treatments, but also in regards to boosting health. So to meet you here at the trade show and you present a new device, I thought it's very nice if we could talk a little bit about your knowledge in PMF, especially in regards to chronic diseases.
Chronic diseases and even cancer, we can touch on that too.
Yeah, good. So would you give us a little bit of an overview in regards to the main functions that you see are important coming from PMF?
Well, one of the key elements missing in life on the planet today is that people generally don't have enough energy in their cells. So what we all know is that you have to have a good lifestyle. So you have to eat well or eat right. You have to exercise properly and get the right amount of exercise. You have to have the right attitude. You can't heal any chronic condition without those being in place. But they're not enough. They're necessary, but they're not sufficient.
Yeah.
Okay, what makes them work better is that you condition the cells to have a lot more energy. Right? The Earth itself, right now, today, is probably something like 20-fold different magnetic field intensity than at the peak of human evolution.
Yeah.
So as a result, our bodies are energy starved. So you can have all the right conditions set up in the body, but it's still depleted or deficient to start with. So even being born, you're being born into a world, a geophysical world, that's somewhat deficient. So
can I just come back, because a lot of people would say, why is the energy field, the magnetic field of the Earth decreasing? Is that because the hardening, the cooling of the crust?
It's probably a whole bunch of factors, and obviously it's cyclical.
Yeah.
Okay, so as the crust changes or thins, as the planet starts to slow down a little bit and spin, there's probably a host of different factors which we don't completely understand anyway.
Yeah, certainly.
So we know that we suppose, let me put it that way, it's hypothesized that as the planet spins and the molten core inside spins at a different rate relative to the mantle, that spinning rate creates a magnetic shearing force, because the molten core produces its own magnetic fields. The spinning of the planet itself, the mantle, creates its own magnetic fields. The motion of the planet around the sun and in the universe creates its own magnetic field. The Earth's magnetic field shields the Earth from the sun. If we didn't have a magnetic field around the Earth, called the magnetosphere, which extends hundreds of thousands of miles behind us and tens of thousands of miles ahead of us. That shield protects us from being cooked by the sun, being irradiated. But the human bodies are the same. Human bodies produce their own magnetic fields. Every atom has a magnetic field. Atom, down at the atom level. And we have 70 trillion cells in our bodies. So imagine the amount of magnetic field that a body can produce. Some people would call that the aura.
Yeah, exactly.
It goes beyond the concept of the aura, but basically, I think the part of what the aura is in fact the magnetic field of the body. We have instruments today that can detect the magnetic fields of the brain and the heart. But every organ, every tissue has its own sort of electromagnetic signature, right? And you can actually resonate with those signatures within the body to produce healing effects.
Yeah.
So again, it's all part of a cosmic sort of plan, if you will, to have a contained system. You know, one of my background experiences is to study acupuncture. And I discovered in my journey in learning acupuncture is that even watermelons have acupuncture points and meridians.
Yeah.
So it's not a human phenomenon.
No, it's a general phenomenon.
It's a general phenomenon. Any organized biology, any organized life has in a sense, a physics around it that sort of contains and controls and modifies and moves and shapes everything inside it. So the magnetosphere is no different than basically the energy envelope of the body.
Yeah. So when you have that energy field in every body part, in every cell, then how is that induced or how is that increased? Because that was one of the questions that I was speaking to Michael about. when we charge, and that's what we call it, it's like a battery charging, we charge, but he says it's more the movement, it's more the vibrational energy that then is passed over the energy into the cell.
Well, Faraday's law,
Yeah.
okay, basic physics. When you have charge, or when you have conductors, and you have a magnetic field moving past the conductor, sweeping in and out past the conductor, you create charge.
It's like those toothbrushes that you put in that don't have a connection, but they're still charged.
They're still charged.
Exactly.
But you have to have motion. That's the key. You have to have motion. Now, static magnets work relative to the body only because the body's in motion.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, but if you have a dynamic magnetic field, pulse magnetic field moving in and out through a body, and you have the activity of the body itself, whether it's a circulation or the pulsation of nerves or the normal biological metabolic activity, 70 trillion cells in the body, there are over 2,000 biochemical processes happening per second in every cell. That's a lot of motion. Right? And it's a lot easier to move something that's already in motion than it is to start something moving in the first place. First law of thermodynamics.
Yeah.
Right?
So when you think about what you just said, the energy that is produced in the body and that you pulse into the body, that brings us to those two questions. There is one which is based on frequency, and that's what we all talk about, the earth frequency, starting at 0, going up to about 30 to 60 hertz.
50, yeah.
50 hertz, which is that vibrational energy, and that's in the earth magnetic field parallel at many times. So there is not just one frequency at a time, because we have so many layers of density, there is many frequencies at the same time. And they stimulate the body, they stimulate the cells, and we know certain organs have a frequency pattern. They listen or they respond to certain frequencies more or less.
Well, again, everything is resonant.
Yes.
So resonance is frequency. Everything. And so what we're trying to do then is in pathologic processes, the resonance patterns, the energy patterns are not correct. They're not normal in a sense. And so what you're trying to do is you can either match the pathologic process or you can match the actual process of a normal organ or normal cells.
Yes.
So if you create an environment where the cells are supposed to resonate at a particular frequency, you create an environment with that frequency, then the body begins to frequency follow.
That's what we call a healing environment.
That's a healing environment, exactly. So you're trying to match these things, but it's even more complicated than that. Remember we said that in order to create charge, you have to have a moving magnetic field. Well, as the magnetic field moves towards an object, it's almost like a Doppler effect. It moves towards the object, the field intensifies, the reaction intensifies, and it moves away past the object, the reaction decreases. So you get this sweeping action, it's almost like waves, back and forth and back and forth. So you need the gradient, you need the motion through it, you need the frequency, and you need the right intensity. So you need all those elements to be able to produce the right actions. And PEMFs have most of those characteristics.
Yeah.
But there's also a phenomenon called harmonics.
Yeah.
So when I introduce one frequency into the body will then take that one frequency, and through a process of the way it reacts to that frequency, you'll create all these harmonics.
Yeah.
And so when you do a stimulation now, the harmonics play themselves out over hours or days even, depending on the tissue. Again, some tissues are moving at extremely slow rates, and some tissues are moving at extremely rapid rates. So those harmonics can play out in a couple of minutes, or they can play out in days or weeks even.
Yeah. So when you talk about those harmonics, that's what we then talk about the frequencies.
Which is the
frequencies.
frequency.
Whereas if we talk about those ringer devices that send pulses into the body, that's more like we ring a bell.
Yes, right. And so that's all PEMFs basically are frequency based. Now again, you talk about ringers and hummers.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so a ringer, I think the fundamental value of a ringer is the fact that you create this very large, sudden increase in energy, the Faraday effect. You're creating this huge pulse of energy, and that generates charge because you're moving. This field moves up very rapidly, very high, very quickly, and that causes the production of charge
Yeah.
in the cells in the body. When you introduce charge, what's charge? One main element of charge is ATP.
Yeah.
So what's
energy.
ATP is the energy, is the molecule inside the cell produced by the mitochondria that is used as a sugar, if you will, right, by the cells to do their work. If you're depleted in ATP, your cells are depleted. They don't they function very slowly, right, as opposed to eating and doing the job properly where it's supposed to.